Good morning. I lost over $10,000 and wasted 18 months on my first real estate investment and had to move back in with my loving parents. In this video, I'm going to go over the entire bad deal, the 4 big mistakes I made, and why I'm still in the game. Here we go. Before we get too deep, this would be a good video to actually tell you why and how I got into real estate investing. Let me set the scene. It was 2014. I was living in a house with 4 other dudes, and well, see, I was dating this girl. Yeah, always a girl. Why do men do anything? And well, we wanted to buy a house. Well, she wanted to use me, so I would buy a house all while she was out cheating on me. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever been there, smash the like button. I was young and dumb, and I tried my best to buy a home, but you see, at the time, I was just a lowly bartender at the local Applebee's. As a bartender, I was a commission employee, and banks don't like commission employees, especially when they don't claim all their tips. IRS, I'm watching you. So I had to forget the banks and make my own way. I had to buy this house. I found some rent-to-own properties. I knew the theory. They let us rent-to-own our instruments and band. So I started checking out some places. I came across a website, rent2owndayton.com to be exact. The domain is now available if you're looking to start a business. I got to emailing the owner of the site back and forth about some rent-to-own properties. After about 40 emails, I discovered he was actually making a killing on these rent-to-own properties. He finally suggested I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which if you haven't read, you 169% should read it, so I'll drop a link in the description below. The book changed my mindset forever. After my conversation with his mystery mentor and reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I knew one thing and one thing only. I needed to find a piece of real estate so I could start creating wealth. I started telling everyone I was interested in real estate and trying to buy a house, and I mean everyone. My mother, brother, aunts, uncles, friends, enemies, heck, every table I served and every person that sat at my bar, I told them that I was getting into real estate and I was trying to buy a house. My poor manager caught wind of my obsession and decided that he wanted to sell me his house. He said as long as I could cover his payment that he would be fine and he would make a little profit off it as well. The idea was I'd pay a monthly amount to him, he would collect it and keep paying his mortgage. And 18 months later, after I had my 2 years of proven income, I would get a loan and pay him off. While I was living there, I would rent rooms to friends to offset the payment. I know now that this is called house hacking. While there, I would rehab the kitchen, bathroom, paint, and floors, and then sell it at the end of the option for more than the option price. The grand plan was to have $0 invested in the property, use the collected rent to rehab it, live for free, and then sell it for a profit. Good idea and definitely feasible, but you know from the title of the video that this doesn't have a fairy tale ending. Allow me to take you through some of the numbers. Since there were no banks involved, I ended up negotiating an owner finance deal. That just means that instead of a bank carrying the note, the seller would carry the note. The particular structure of this deal was a lease option. This means I signed a lease that gave me an option to purchase the home at the end of the lease for a predetermined price. I paid for all utilities, repairs, maintenance, capital expenses, etc. as if I owned the home. The seller still had a loan on the property, which included taxes and insurance, so I didn't have to pay those directly, but they were forwarded on to me through my monthly payment to the owner. We agreed on the following. An 18-month lease. This is how long I would need to work to get a loan based off my 2-year tax returns, and it would give me time to save for a down payment. I was planning on flipping the house and moving instead of securing the loan, but the loan was another fine exit strategy. My purchase price at the end of the lease was going to be $55,000, and my payment each month for those 18 months was $875. This means I would end up paying $70,750 for the home. Fortunately, I negotiated $0 down except for first month's rent, of course. I then knew I had to rent some rooms to some friends to help cover the cost. I figured $300 per room would be fair. It was a 3-bedroom home, so I rented the other 2 rooms. This takes me to mistake number 1. I was too nice. I charged less than I should have. They didn't split utilities at all. It was just $300 for as much use in the home as I had. This means I was out of pocket $275 plus $60 for internet, $80 for electricity, $60 for water, sewer, and trash, and $40-ish for gas every month. And that all adds up, and it means I was actually paying $515 a month to live with roommates. On top of my monthly payment, I also paid for and provided the appliances, stove, fridge, washer, and dryer, which were additional expenses for me as well. Now they moved with me and are now in some of my other rentals, so I won't count them as a loss, but still an annoyance that my friends had such a sweet deal, and I hope they appreciate it. I realize now that market rent in the area was about $550 a month at the time, so you can tell I was really overpaying. The low market rent is also what made me charge my friends only $300. That and they were my friends. This takes me to mistake number 2. I was too nice. Collecting rent wasn't difficult. I lived with the folks that paid me. What was difficult was when one of my roommates didn't pay. Then he didn't pay again. And again. And finally, one day I came home as he was packing up. He was behind about 4 months rent, and at this point in my adventure, it was too late to to find another roommate for his room. He was my friend, and I would still call him my friend to this day, even though he did put a gap between us. But not being hard on him cost me about 8 months of rent, or $2,400, which also meant I was out of pocket $815 for those 8 months that he wasn't paying, making it almost impossible for me to cover any additional expenses. And this takes me to mistake number 3. I started off and I had no reserves. I kept putting off saving. For one reason or another, I just spent money, racked up credit card debt, and then I made the ultimate mistake of leaving my bartending job to take a job as a salaried manager at the same Applebee's. In my mind, the salaried position would mean I would only need 2 months of pay stubs to qualify for a loan because I was no longer a commissioned employee. Although it turns out I was working 70 hours a week instead of 35 and taking home in my bi-weekly paycheck what I used to take home in a weekend. If you do the math, I was working twice the hours for half the money, a 400% pay cut. This means that since I had no reserves to start, and now I was making piss poor money, that I would never have reserves. I needed to make a change. I stepped down as manager after about a year, and they'd let me go back to bartending. I also decided to take this time to take real estate classes to become a licensed agent. And now we have arrived at mistake number 4. I didn't know my numbers going in. As I was working on my real estate license, I quickly learned how to run comps to determine the value of my home. According to my numbers, it was worth about $35,000 all fixed up. I was also learning how much it costs to actually fix things and what other improvements I overlooked. For example, on top of kitchen, bath, paint, I would have to refinish the hardwood, replace the kitchen floor, replace the windows, and install a new garage door. There were also some electrical issues I discovered as well. This meant that I could never purchase the home and make money, so I started planning my exit. At this point, I had already spent about $2,000 fixing some miscellaneous items over my time living there, all of which was lost to me when I moved out. My option date was December 31st, 2015. I knew I wasn't going to execute the option, but I had no plan. I had one roommate, my future best man, and we came up with the best plan ever. Hey, Mom, Dad, can we have our old rooms back? After being out of the house for 5 years, it was going to be tough to move home. I was planning Christmas with my family, and my mom asked for my Christmas list, and I simply told her, can I have a place to live? Of course, my mother let me move home, with rules of course. I signed the house back over to the owner, apologized for not executing my option, and started looking for my next investment. I had 18 months experience and spent over $10,000 in tuition. 2 months after moving home, I purchased an 8-unit apartment building that I still own to this day. That's a story for another time, so subscribe so you don't miss it. Looking back, I should have paid $550 to rent the home, plus similar utility bills of $240 per month for a total of $790. Then, if I rent those same rooms for $300 again, I would only be out of pocket $190, which would have given me a financial buffer to save and fix the home, which ultimately wasn't worth it anyways. Since I needed a place to live during those 18 months anyways, I would have paid at least the $190 over those 18 months. So I can't say I lost 100% of what I put in, but instead of paying $3,420 to live for those 18 months, my mistakes added up to a total cost of living of $11,670 for those same 18 months, a difference of $8,250. Plus the $2,000 I spent on odds and ends repairs puts me in the hole over $10,000. And this doesn't even include the pay cut I took when I was a manager for a year in an attempt to get a loan, which was at least a $20,000 loss. So I want to quickly recap. My 4 big mistakes. 1, being too nice. I charged too little. 2, being too nice. I let rent collections slide. That cost me quite a bit of money. 3, not having reserves or creating reserves. 4, I didn't know my numbers. I wasn't even close. These mistakes cost me over $10,000, but I can say I learned a lot and this kept me in the game, and hopefully you have some what not to do's to take away from this video. Thank you for hanging out until the end. If you still haven't smashed the like button, please do so now. We upload every day, so make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss out. If you want to see our stock series, I'll put that playlist here. If you're more here for the real estate stuff or want to see more real estate videos, I'll put that playlist over here. As always, subscribe. Peace.